The wrestling world just erupted with shocking news that nobody saw coming. Dominik Mysterio has been exiled from WWE programming and the fallout is absolutely insane. Before we dive into every single detail of this controversy, make sure you smash that subscribe button because you won't want to miss what happens next in this story. This isn't just another suspension or a minor backstage disagreement. This is a complete removal from television that has fans questioning everything they thought they knew about the Judgment Day and the entire direction of Monday Night Raw. Let's get straight into what actually happened because the timeline of events is crucial to understanding just how serious this situation really is. During the most recent episode of Raw, Dominik was scheduled to appear in a major segment with the rest of the Judgment Day. The entire storyline had been building for weeks with tension rising between different factions and personal rivalries reaching their boiling point. Fans were expecting fireworks and they were ready to see Dominik continue his heel persona that has made him one of the most talked about performers in the company. But when the cameras started rolling, something was completely different. Dominik was nowhere to be found and the segment had to be completely restructured on the fly. Backstage reports started flooding in almost immediately and what they revealed was beyond anything the wrestling community expected. According to multiple sources close to the situation, there was a major incident that occurred just hours before the show went live. The details are still emerging but what we know so far paints a picture of a backstage environment that reached a breaking point. Dominik allegedly had a heated confrontation with multiple members of the production team and several fellow wrestlers. The nature of this confrontation has been described as unprofessional and disruptive to the point where WWE officials had no choice but to take immediate action. The company moved swiftly and decisively. Within minutes of the incident, high-level executives made the call to pull Dominik from all scheduled appearances. This wasn't just for that one episode of Raw. This was a complete exile from WWE programming with no clear timeline for his return. The decision came from the very top of the company hierarchy and it sent shockwaves through the entire locker room. Wrestlers who had been working closely with Dominik suddenly had to adjust their storylines and figure out how to move forward without one of their key players. The Judgment Day stable found themselves in a particularly difficult position because Dominik had become such an integral part of their dynamic. What makes this situation even more complex is the history that led up to this moment. Dominik has been on an incredible journey since turning heel and joining forces with Rhea Ripley. His character transformation was one of the most successful storylines in recent memory and fans love to hate him. The chemistry between Dominik and Rhea created television magic and their partnership elevated both of their careers to new heights. They became appointment viewing for wrestling fans around the world and their segments consistently drew strong ratings. The investment that WWE had made in building up Dominik as a top heel made this exile all the more shocking because the company was clearly willing to sacrifice a valuable asset rather than let the backstage situation continue. The wrestling community immediately started speculating about what could have caused such a drastic response from WWE management. Some insiders suggested that this was the culmination of multiple smaller incidents that had been overlooked or handled quietly behind the scenes. Others pointed to growing tensions within the Judgment Day itself with reports of creative disagreements and personality clashes becoming more frequent. There were whispers about Dominik feeling frustrated with certain aspects of his character direction and wanting more input into his storylines. Whether those frustrations boiled over into the confrontation that led to his exile remains unclear but the timing certainly raises questions. Rhea Ripley's reaction to the situation has been another major talking point among fans and analysts. She has been noticeably quiet on social media since the news broke and her appearances on WWE programming have taken on a different tone. The on-screen chemistry that defined her partnership with Dominik has been replaced with a sense of uncertainty about where her character goes from here. WWE has started planting seeds for new directions with Rhea but longtime fans can't help but notice the absence of the dynamic that made her such a compelling performer. The company is clearly trying to pivot quickly but the hole left by Dominik's exile is difficult to fill especially given how much time and effort went into building their relationship. The rest of the Judgment Day has also been affected in significant ways. Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and JD McDonough have all had to adjust their roles within the group and figure out how to maintain the faction's momentum without one of its most prominent members. Creative teams have been working overtime to rewrite storylines and come up with new angles that make sense given the sudden change in personnel. Some of these adjustments have been more successful than others but there's no denying that the group's overall presentation has shifted dramatically. Fans who were invested in the long-term storytelling now find themselves wondering if those plans have been completely scrapped or if there's still a path forward. WWE's official statement on the matter has been minimal, which is fairly standard for the company when dealing with internal disciplinary issues. They released a brief comment acknowledging that Dominik would not be appearing on programming for the foreseeable future but offered no specific details about the incident or the timeline for potential return. This lack of transparency has only fueled more speculation and kept the story dominating wrestling news cycles. Every wrestling journalist and insider with sources close to the company has been working their contacts trying to get more information about what really happened and what the future holds. The financial implications of this exile cannot be ignored either. Dominik had become a major merchandise mover for WWE, with his heel persona generating strong sales across multiple product lines. The Judgment Day as a unit was also performing well commercially, and the sudden loss of one quarter of that equation has forced the company to reconsider their marketing strategies. Events that had been built around the full Judgment Day lineup have had to be modified, and promotional materials featuring Dominik have been quietly pulled from circulation. The company is clearly taking this situation seriously from both a creative and business perspective. Social media has been absolutely explosive, with reactions from fans around the world. Some supporters of Dominik are calling for WWE to give him another chance and arguing that everyone makes mistakes. Others believe that the company made the right call and that maintaining professionalism backstage is more important than any single performer, regardless of their on-screen value. The debate has been heated, with passionate arguments on both sides and no real consensus emerging. Wrestling fans love to discuss and dissect these kinds of situations, and this one has provided plenty of material for endless conversations. The broader wrestling industry has been watching this situation closely as well. Other promotions are surely paying attention to see how it plays out and whether Dominik might eventually become available for work elsewhere. His name value and the skills he has developed during his time with WWE would make him an attractive signing for competitors if his relationship with the company ends permanently. However, most industry observers believe it's too early to start thinking about what comes next, and that the focus should remain on what needs to happen for any kind of reconciliation or resolution. Behind the scenes, there are reportedly ongoing conversations between various parties trying to figure out the best path forward. WWE has a history of bringing back performers after disciplinary actions once appropriate time has passed and lessons have been learned. Whether that pattern will apply in this case remains to be seen. The severity of whatever happened backstage, combined with the very public nature of his removal from programming, suggests this isn't a situation that will be resolved quickly or easily. Both sides will need to do serious work if there's any hope of repairing the relationship and getting Dominik back on television. The impact on ongoing storylines has been particularly challenging for the creative team to navigate. Weeks and sometimes months of planning went into building certain angles that featured Dominik prominently. Those plans have either been abandoned entirely or dramatically altered to work around his absence. Some storylines have been able to pivot successfully, while others have felt disjointed or rushed because of the sudden changes. Wrestling fans are generally understanding when real life forces changes to fictional narratives, but there's always disappointment when compelling stories get derailed before reaching their intended conclusions. Rey Mysterio's position in all of this adds another layer of complexity to the situation. The legendary wrestler and Dominik's father has been part of WWE for decades and has enormous respect throughout the industry. Having his son involved in such a controversial situation puts Rey in a difficult position both personally and professionally. He has remained publicly silent about the exile, which is probably the wisest course of action, but everyone knows this has to be affecting him deeply. The father-son dynamic had been used so effectively in storylines, and now that entire chapter feels uncertain. Training and development staff at the WWE Performance Center have also been impacted by this situation. Dominik had been working with various coaches and trainers to continue improving his in-ring abilities and character work. Those relationships have been put on hold indefinitely, and the momentum he had been building in his development has been interrupted. Young wrestlers coming up through the system are surely taking note of what happened and understanding that talent alone isn't enough to succeed in this business. Professionalism and respect for the locker room culture are equally important. The television ratings since Dominik's exile have been analyzed extensively to see if his absence has affected viewership numbers. Early data suggests that while there was initial curiosity about how WWE would handle his removal, overall ratings have remained relatively stable. This could be interpreted multiple ways. Some might argue it shows that no single performer is bigger than the company and that WWE's brand strength can withstand the loss of any individual talent. Others might suggest it's too early to draw conclusions and that the long-term impact won't be clear for several months. International fans have been particularly vocal about this situation because Dominik had developed a strong following in markets outside the United States. His connection to Rey Mysterio gave him instant credibility with Latino audiences, and his heel work had earned him recognition worldwide. Wrestling is a global business now, and WWE certainly considers international reactions when making major decisions. The company's expansion into new markets and streaming platforms means they have to think carefully about how talent moves affect their worldwide audience. The legal aspects of this situation are probably being carefully reviewed by both WWE's legal team and Dominik's representatives. Contracts in professional wrestling are complex documents that cover everything from performance obligations to conduct clauses. Whatever happened backstage likely triggered specific provisions in Dominik's contract that allowed WWE to take the action they did. The exact terms of his deal aren't public knowledge, but the company clearly felt they had sufficient grounds to remove him from programming immediately. Mental health and personal well-being have become more prominent topics in wrestling discussions over recent years, and this situation raises questions in that area as well. The pressure of performing at the highest level week after week while maintaining character and dealing with the unique demands of sports entertainment can take a serious toll. While we don't know the specific circumstances that led to the confrontation, it's worth considering that these performers are human beings dealing with enormous stress. Whatever support systems need to be in place to help talent navigate challenges should be a priority for everyone involved in the industry. The next few weeks and months will be crucial in determining how this story ultimately unfolds. Will there be a path to redemption and return for Dominik Mysterio, or has this incident permanently damaged his relationship with WWE? Can the Judgment Day maintain their position as one of the top factions without him, or will they need to evolve into something completely different? How will creative teams adjust long-term planning to account for his absence? These questions don't have clear answers right now, but the wrestling world will be watching closely as events continue to develop. Make sure you're subscribed to stay updated on every twist and turn, because this story is far from over.